been banned out a good bit. The Daji and the Fenrir both have just been priority bans against Lasbra. You look at Layers, his God Pool, been in Erlang Shen game, couple of Cyrus games, Ratatosker, Mercury, so those carry-style junglers still there. Whereas Lasbra feels like Warrior, and then Daji and Fenrir are what he's looking for. Tartarus Titans, as such, going to go ahead and take away the Daji from Lasbra, not going to allow him to facilitate the game in that type of way. On the flip side, Khepri, a very, very strong, albeit standard pick for Aurora. And really across the league, Trelly, feels like Khepri still towards the top, especially when Aurora's on the other side. Seems like a pretty simple ban.
Yeah, the E-site being taken away from Paul, definitely a smart option as well. You're pretty much forfeiting, the objective presence in the early, or you're saying, hey, we're gonna focus this E-site as much as possible. Not something that's easy to do, especially when it's Paul who's piloting it, so I think banning away that gonna be smart. I'm surprised,
wow.
The Erlang and the Osiris both are options that I think both of these junglers would want, so some thinking to do here. The Bolts are first pick, so obviously they don't have to ban either way. If they ban one, then I assume both would get banned away, but they're in a position where as long as they don't ban one here, they should be able to grab something in that first pick slot. And the Titans, they don't have to ban it either, right? They can just say, you take Erlang, you take Osiris,
right.
We'll take the opposition, we're not going to ban either one. Or they could say, hey, one of them is just much more oppressive to our draft, and we'll take that away as well. Notably, the Chernobog is still open, and that's something that I think both of these teams wouldn't mind getting their hands on, just that global presence so strong.
And so you look at the supports that have also taken a hefty bit of ban presence here. Robin will end up being the final ban. That was a strong look for Haddix in the couple of games that we've seen the Bolts play. Yeah, definitely an E-set ban against Paul, but also maybe the Bolts banning it away from Ven, who went 0-3 in the last time we saw the E-set get played. Jokes aside. They're self-banning.
No, I get it.
They're not allowing Ven to play it.
I understand.
It's clearly kidding. But no, didn't look great the last time the Bolts played it, but did look good at 3-0 for Paul on the flip side. Yu Huang, if we're talking about mid lane picks and bans, I have to talk about Yu Huang with Paul, because out of the last 6 games, Paul has played Yu Huang 5 times and won on it a pretty good bit. And done a lot of damage, done a lot of killing on that pick. So the Bolts, that's something they've got to be aware of.
Yeah.
But do the Titans reach for it early in the draft to avoid it being banned away? Remains to be seen. The first of the 2 picks that we had a conversation about, the Osiris, the Erlang Shen, gets picked here. The Titans grab Osiris, presumably for Layers in the jungle, and then Bologna over in solo lane for SOT. And already, Trilly, those 2 paired with one another, dive in, run it down style picks that'll make the back line uncomfortable for the Bolts.
Yeah, the second I saw the Bologna Osiris locked in, what immediately came to my mind was either the Erlang Shen or the Yu Huang that had to be locked in the opposition. It will be the Erlang Shen, but it's going to be the Morgan. So Ven, not putting too much credit to the Yu Huang, and or once that double global presence with the double Chernobog ult, I think that's going to be super annoying to deal with as well. Whenever you think you're in a 1v1 situation, whenever you think you're going for a gank and it's a 2v1 situation, you could have 2 Chernobogs join you immediately, and that's something that not a lot of teams
Good point.
know how to play against and or want to play against, so you're going to have to worry about that. Of course, that leaves the Yu Huang open for the Titans, and Paul's going to grab that one every single time. So, given the situation, I think the Bolts are going to be wanting to ban away some ADCs from Cyclone Spin, because if you're banning away supports, you're essentially limiting Awesome Jake's God Pool as well. But the Titans, you have a couple options of taking things away that are not going to hurt you. And given the fact that Guardians are back in the solo lane, the RDO is no surprise there. So Freya is something that is also extremely looked after.
Yu Huang is about the picture of standard here. Right around a 50% pick ban rate, exactly at a 50% win rate. You know what you're getting. And I think that's important to look at, because Paul, yes, in seemingly every single game this Yu Huang rolls through, doing immense damage numbers, but about split 50% on win-loss for the Tartarus Titans. So not a insta-lock, insta-win type of pick for the Titans. You shouted out to Freya, and another late-game scaling hunter in the Jingwei. Those 2 will get banned out. Kumba Karna, how about that pick for Aurora? Not something we've seen all that often across the SPL. Aurora did play it against the Solar Scarabs in Game 2, got a win there. Or against the Solar Scarabs, excuse me, got a win there. 2-2-13 was his KDA. Good at disrupting, good at setting up some damage. It feels like the style of pick Aurora synergizes with well.
Yeah, and it's really good in auto attackers who the Bolts have essentially 3 of, because the Morgan's going to have to transform into one as well. Erlang Shen, Chernobog, and then, whoever you want to transform into. You could look at the opposition and say, hey, I want to be Osiris this time. But still, you're going to be dealing with that auto attack presence. The Sobek is going to be the option, and I'm not convinced where it's going. Now that the Cthulhu gets locked in, I am convinced. I was going to say the solo Beck has been making a bit of a resurgence, but now that we see the Cthulhu,
could be support Cthulhu.
The only person we've seen do that is Inbound, and it didn't look great. So I'm going to say that is the Sobek in the duo lane, and then Haddix is going to be taking this Conduit Gem Cthulhu, hopefully, into the solo lane.
And this is like a Titan style of draft that the Bolts are drafting here. I mean, the double Cthulhu specifically is far from breaking new ground because it's something the Titans ran plenty of times in the past. And so throughout these team fights, you get an opportunity to out-rotate with potentially double Chernobog. You have potentially a Cthulhu double transform opportunity. The question ends up being, do the Titans, with their unique style of draft, Yuhuang and Poseidon, with already jungle, solo, and support locked in, one's going to go one way, one's going to go the other, do you think the Titans have enough shred, have enough damage to deal with potentially double Cthulhu in these fights?
Well, unfortunately, we've received some information. And it's that Bologna is in the ADC role.
Oh, I was wrong.
And that Poseidon is going to be solo. So the Bumbus Hammer Poseidon build up against a Cthulhu, you're going to be susceptible to ganks. It doesn't matter how well you play it. Erlang Shen has a lot of CC to try and force out your beads, and Cthulhu is always going to be able to chase you down. So the option is simple. Is Osiris going to play through that solo lane and try and facilitate and get this Poseidon online? And is Cyclone Spin going to get enough, farm to be able to make this Bologna ADC work? Yeah. It's something that works a fair bit in ranked, I will say. The Bologna ADC catches people off guard and gets a lot of pressure. Late game, it's got some struggles. You have to close gap. You're going to be like pretty much full damage, so are you able to live through it? There's ways to make it work, and the Titans had to know this was coming. They practiced it, I'm sure. So
do I look worried?
Yeah, a little bit. I won't lie.
I am worried.
You should
slightly
be, but maybe they've practiced it.
What is the SPL, Trelly, if not just really good ranked players that have all formed teams with one another?
That's fair.
And so if it works in ranked, clearly it's going to work in the SPL. That's my takeaway. I say with heavy sarcasm. Do you think it's punishable, though? Do you think a Bologna Kumba duo lane with their standard duo lane can punish?
I honestly don't think looking at the duo lane is your best option. You're looking at two tanks. Bologna, very difficult to gank because an Erlang Shen's going to walk up and say, oh, I'm going to try and force as much as possible. Right. Oh, I'm disarmed. Now I can't fight you for a bit. The Eagles rally away. I got to chase that down. So I think the Poseidon in the solo lane is much more punishable.
Yeah, right. I forgot that means Poseidon's in solo.
Yeah, I think that's where you should be looking to put your pins, your 9 turns blessing. You only get one pair of beads, so if you can force that out, even with the Whirlpool to cripple out the mink form and the turtle form, it's going to be hard to live through that, and Cthulhu should be getting the pressure there anyways. If with the Conduit Gem start, you're going to be out clearing as long as some other presence is there. Because Poseidon clears away fast and he can run away, sure, but if you're throwing a jungle body in that lane, it's not going to be easy.
Now, remember, the last time we talked to the Tartarus Titans postgame, I believe it was Layers that I talked to, I said, do you feel like the Titans are one of the most theory craftingest, that's not the right word, but I'm sticking with it, one of the more unique theory crafting style of teams in the league, and Layers did think so. And this is what a weird, in a good way, composition. But I suppose having like SOT on your team, a guy who likes playing those weird style of picks, it opens you up for opportunities like this here, Trelia. Poseidon solo lane, Bologna, that's going to SOT 9 times out of 10, but game 1 is the one time that it ends up going over to Cyclone Spin. Olympus Bolts versus Tartarus Titans. What a way to start off this week in SPL. J-Mac and Mifflin, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dave. And, man, it wouldn't be an SPL game if we weren't kept guessing Mifflin on where something is going. And it wouldn't be Cyclone Spin if he wasn't trying to play some weird thing in a lane that it probably shouldn't be. And back to his days of solo when he was throwing Ao Kwang up against Bologna. Well, now we're going to see Cyclone throw Bologna in the duo lane, this time up against the Chernobog. J-Mac, Mifflin, Doug for game number 1. And I mean, Miff, you got to kind of talk me through kind of how the process of this game has got to go for the Titans.
Man, it is interesting, right? And I think Charlie does a good job of highlighting that Bologna ADC is not something untested. We've been seeing it a fair bit recently in high-level ranked games. I've been on the receiving end of it, got absolutely bodied. So what does that tell me? Bologna is a lane bully, especially in that ADC role. So you're expecting the Tartarus Titans to leverage early aggression. Across the board, really. Paul, levels 1 through 4 or so on this Yu Huang should have a distinct advantage up against Ven. You should be able to get aggressive towards purple buff around Cyclone Spin on this Bologna. SOT might not have the most kill potential in the solo up against Haddix, but He's just got a whole lot more movement speed and a whole lot more clear. So it could be that SOT just plays that zoomer role of, hey, I'm going to clear this wave, I'm going to go clear your back camps, and I'll be back for the next wave without really missing anything. So it tells me early aggression from the Tartarus Titans against the composition of the Olympus Bolts that is lacking in places with aggression, lacking in early presence. Generally, the Morrigan is a god that struggles to confirm her own neutral camps because the clear is so low. Exemplified now, he's already inside his tower. Haddix on this Cthulhu as well, could be a target.
Pin onto SOT, no beads available. He gets rooted in place and body blocked to hell. Haddix and SOT, or Haddix will take down SOT with the help of Lasbra. Layers a little too late on the rotation, and the Bolts on the board first.
Gotta be concerned about that if you're SOT. Going towards teleport in that first slot really does put a massive target on your back. Does allow him to get back to that wave. I think only missing out on 1 minion's worth of experience, but first blood over to Lasbra on this Erlong Shen does bode well for the Olympus Bolts. If you want to be able to fight into the Tartarus Titans early, it's got to be around Lasbra.
They just kind of wrap around and do it again. Ming form in by Lasbra.
Wait.
Pin is available. A body block in place, and SOT gets locked against the wall.
Wow.
Put a second one up for the jungler of the Bolts.
Simple play, man. Just loops back around. SOT has got a long time before that's no longer a viable option for the Olympus Bolts. Maybe around level 5, you can at least drop Kraken on your feet. Until then, you don't really have many avenues back in. An entire level deficit up against Cthulhu didn't used to be a massive deal because Cthulhu's relatively low pressure. Kind of a big deal if he's got Conduit Gem. He should be able to clear those waves pretty easy.
Well, Root not available for Barracuda to lock Cyclone Spin down. And the Tartarus Titans are keeping up pressure in the dual lane.
Maybe looks towards the Doom Orb as well for some additional movement speed, and it'll become much more difficult for Lasbra to do what he has been. So I would like to see Lasbra just keep doing it while he can.
Might as well. He's got a lot of gold in hand, though. 1,600 that he's sitting on. Hasn't had a chance to... I can't even say hasn't had a chance, just hasn't taken the time to go back to base to start building up those items. Level 5 now for Haddix, who's also sitting on a nice plethora of gold in his pocket. Can go back, does have teleport, so make an easy trip back to that base. But for now, Lasbra now being able to go back, picks up the Golden Blade, the very standard start that we've seen out of the jungle.